Now let's come to another important thing, which is arrow functions. Okay, but before that, let me just save this. Right, so let's come to arrow functions now. A lot of you still make a mistake of when what you describe about arrow functions is a very important question. Uh, Always remember this. You will definitely get some question around arrow functions, if not about the differences or the reasons why you use arrow functions, but there'll be some questions around it, I would say, implementation way or something. So the first reason is that it creates sugar syntaxing, or you can call it um, easier way to write functions, right? So that is quite clear, and I think most people get that because that is evident. The second is that it handles this keyword better, right? So it doesn't create. So a good way to answer this is that whenever a function, when you write a normal way in ES5 method, when you write a function, there is a context of this created every time. But with arrow functions, that does not happen as such. So which essentially means that, so let's just take an example of person is equal to this, and I'm going to write name, and then I'm going to say, let's say Masai, and I'm going to say display as an arrow function, and this dot name, right? Display with ES5, and if I just write a function here, anonymous function, and say console.log of this dot name, let's write a comma here, and if I were to execute person.display, and I wrote person.display of ES5, you get these two outputs, undefined and Masai. All right. So what happens in the first one is that it is the ES6 way. Second is the ES5 way of writing functions. So what happens here is that the context of this is maintained, and when person is invoking it, it is an implicit binding, and the person object is calling it. So this refers to the person object. So it takes person.name in this case. This dot name refers to the person object. So if you were just try to write console log this, you would get the person itself. And if you try to do this, you would get an empty object, right? This doesn't exist. So this is what happens when you work with arrow functions. So there are times you need to use arrow functions. There are times you don't need to use arrow functions. So when it comes to React, a good way to explain this is with giving an example from React. So this also can be extended to another question under call, apply, and bind. So call, apply, and bind, you can change the context of this, right? So that's one way to explain, is that using call, apply, and bind, you can change the context of invoking this. You should be able to back up with answers. So the first argument which call or apply or bind takes when you invoke a function is the context to which you want to invoke. So if the object that you want to in context you want to invoke. So if you want to invoke with respect to person, then you pass person as the context. All right. So if you remember your class components in React, let's say app extends React or React component, right? And then we have our constructor here, and then we get super props. Right. So let's say you had this function called handle click or something, and you are referring to this dot state dot. Yeah, this dot state is equal to, let's say, data is equal to some value. Right. When you try to invoke this handle click, it doesn't work. This is because this is probably being passed as an argument to some other function, and then by the time the context of invoking handle click goes out of context, so you would generally get some error saying that this dot state dot data does not exist, or of undefined you cannot access. So this is when you would write this dot handle click is equal to this dot handle click dot bind, and you write this. And what essentially happens is here is that you are, so bind returns, so this method, this dot handle click, we are binding this method with respect to this, and this refers to the class instance or the object that is being created, that instance of the class. Okay. And you are storing in this dot handle click. So we are kind of overriding this with the context which is binded to this class, or binded to the instance of that class. And that's why if you use arrow functions, we don't need to use bind, because the context of this is not being stored. Now, depending on company to company, some companies prefer writing with bind due to some reasons that sometimes arrow functions are a little slower than using bind. So sometimes some companies prefer using bind. All right, so that's one way to handle it. You should go through the notes where we have also fixed this issue by using var of that is equal to this in the parent, and we would refer to the inside the child wherever you need this with respect to that. Now that should like kind of explain what arrow functions are. Okay, so moving on.